Well, I just want to set it up because, and I don't want to, you know, date this conversation in such a way that it becomes obsolete. But we are literally filming this podcast today on the very day 10 years ago that we dedicated this campus in the dedicatory weekend, May 2nd, May 3rd, May 4th of 2014. We occupied this campus beginning April 8th, 2012, but we didn't dedicate the campus until after we actually bought it. When we got here in March, where we got the keys in March of 2012, we got here because of a lease purchase agreement.
Mm-hmm.
We had money to raise and money to put down in order to buy the property, and occupying it was going to help us to raise it. And so I'm grateful to have this conversation, because the reason why we have a Glory Week 10 years later is so the narrative of how we got here doesn't get lost. Because if you've gotten here the last 10 years, you've never seen Springfield in any other context than at 1877 Irish Drive.
Including myself.
But we're a 145-year-old church. We've only been here, a fraction of that time. Sometimes when you say Springfield, people don't think about, when we were in the hundreds of members, or when we were in the dozens of members.
Every time I say Springfield, it's that big old church off the highway.
Yeah. But, when I got here 25 years ago, we were in, our sanctuary was about 4,500 square feet.
Wow.
And it sat, if I'm remembering those numbers correctly, it sat 400 to 500 people, which was a big sized church at that time.
Church,
I just don't think we ought to lose the narrative of how God got us here. And I want to invite people to, because if you lose the narrative, you kind of lose a miracle. You lose the memory of a miracle, because it's really miraculous and the hand of God at work as to how we got here. And it's also, I hope, an encouragement to churches that we talked about that may be struggling post-pandemic, about what God can do and how God can sustain and grow a ministry. And so not only are we here on the anniversary of the dedication, but here we are 10 years after the dedication, and over my right shoulder, a portion of our campus is being demolished.
Yes, sir.
And, that brings a lot of emotions too. I didn't see 10 years ago that we'd be dealing with a demolition 10 years later. But the good news is a demolition is not a destruction.
Wow, yes, sir.
And I think that this demolition is going to launch us into this next decade on this campus. And I think it's important to start setting expectations about the vision moving forward.
Yes, sir.
Because I think the next decade is going to be exceeding abundantly above all we could ever ask or think. And so I'm grateful to have this conversation. And I think it's important to just tell the story.
Yes, sir.
Of how we got here. This is what this whole podcast is about. The name of the podcast is The Handoff. And as we're handing off generation to generation, our story has to be handed off.
Yes, sir.
And we need to make sure that as this institution evolves into the remainder of this century, that what happened in 2012, 2013, 2014, and the years leading up to that doesn't get lost.
Yes, sir. So I want to start off our podcast a little different this time. What does fresh Eric Lee, new pastor of Springfield Baptist Church, tell Dr. Eric Wendell Lee of the massive Springfield Baptist Church, or where we are now? What does the young you tell you now? And then after that, what does the you now tell the young you?
I never thought about it that way. I've always thought about what would the old Eric Lee say to the new Eric Lee. I've never thought about what the new Eric Lee would have to say to the old Eric Lee.
You're fresh.
The new Eric Lee would probably say, "What happened to your hair?" But you know, and Derek, can you give me a picture, that picture of my daughter,
the one all the way
of
to the
Elizabeth?
Right, bottom. Yeah, that one.
It would be keep moments like this as precious as possible, and just remember, my daughter is graduating from college this coming Saturday from Florida State University.
Congratulations.
She is truly a child of Springfield Baptist Church. She was virtually born on a pew. Her mother was having contractions on November the 10th. It was a Sunday, November the 10th, and Elizabeth came the very next morning.
Oh, wow.
So we rode to church together that morning. I was like, "You okay?" She was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And then when she was back there on the back pew while I was preaching, I'm looking at her like, "You okay?" And she says she's okay. And this little baby girl that resulted from that birth is graduating college. And I know that you are now in the same position I was in. Yeah. You're having your fourth child, and your wife is expecting a daughter. You've got 3 sons.
Yes.
And as we say every second Sunday, keep the babies coming at Springfield.
Yeah.
And you know, the fact that the young Eric Lee would tell the older Eric Lee is, keep making room for babies. Keep making room for the younger generations. Don't get so institutional that you don't embrace the emerging generations and how they express their faith. You know, I think it's important. I think we've had some discussions earlier that not every ministry embraces children's church or teen church, and but yeah, we remain committed to being the multi-generational church. I get a chance sometimes when church is going on. I like to jump from building to building to see what's going on and to see how everybody experiences. And I got a chance to see a 4-year-old get checked into Tiny Temple. I got a chance to see the children's church, and then I came to the teen church last Sunday. And I think that, you know, the younger Eric Lee would say, don't stop. Don't ever be the church for one generation. Be the multi-generational church. Be that church that an entire family, an entire 4 to 5 generation family can all jump out of one van and come to one campus and everybody be fed spiritually. Yeah.
So now what does
graduating?
Congratulations. What does Dr. Eric Wendell Lee tell newly pastor Eric Lee? Taking into account everything you've been through, everything you've seen, if there's only one thing you can say to the new you, The fresh you, what would that have been?
Um, you don't invest in the trends of ministry.
Mm.
Invest in the infrastructure.
Mm.
Um, we often, we put so much effort. We chase so many things. Um, there are a lot of things that trend. There are a lot of styles of ministry that trend. But invest more in the substance of ministry, because the trends are going to change every 10 to 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And, always put substance ahead of style, and don't get distracted. Don't get to a place where you become more important than what you're preaching.
Mm.
Your message is always more important
Mm-hmm.
than the man.
Mm-hmm.
The message is why we the gospel can't get lost
Yes, sir.
in all of our machinations
Mm-hmm.
and ruminations about style, and uh, don't ever let you become more important than what you're called to preach.
Mm.
And I heard, there's a lot of protests going on around the country right now, and there's a lot of people being forcibly removed from Columbia University, Emory University, and at UCLA, particularly this morning, there was a very violent removal. And Reverend Al Sharpton was asked about what he thought, given that we are a nation that was built on protests, and given that the civil rights movement was based on civil disobedience.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Al Sharpton hit it out the park when he said, we have a situation now where the purpose of protests has been lost, and the protests themselves have become the purpose.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And he said they have lost their message, they have lost their purpose, because now they have become. He says we never protested without it being clear about the purpose of our protests.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in ministry, how that applies to ministry, sometimes we get in our own way. Sometimes we get in the way of the message.
Mm.
And I don't want to. I would tell my younger pastors, or my younger self, never get so caught up in that your story replaces the gospel.
Got you. So, to that point, what I've noticed is not for all, but to what you said about you not getting caught up in your own fluff, basically. What happens when there's a group of people that are now used to that? They think that the pastor is the reality of what we do. And if it's not the pastor, then it's nothing. Like, how do we counteract that now? Because there's so much of that to where the pastor has become the celebrity. The pastor has become the focal point of why I go to that church, or how do we deal with that?
Well, I think we've always kind of had that.
Okay.
And, you know, it's a situation where there's a lot of people who know better,
Yeah.
who don't say better. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people who know better. Who, I mean, it seems like the loudest people tend to be the
Mm-hmm.
people who um, who set the agenda. The people. The minority tend to set the agenda because they're the loudest. But I think there's a lot more people who know better than we give people credit for. Now, for that being said, there's a lot of people who have followings that I'm like, wow, scratching my head about. You know, um, whether that be political, whether that be church wise. I've seen pastors attack pastors
Yeah.
online
Yeah.
and be rewarded for it by garnering more followers. So we play the populist game. We play the game of garnering more likes and doing what we have to quote unquote stay relevant. Um, but it costs you something. It costs you something, and I want to just encourage people that the gospel is enough.
Yes.
The gospel, if we keep that front and center and try to make that applicable to who we are becoming, it'll get us where we're going. But yeah, we're gonna have to deal with some. We're gonna have to deal with some counterfeits every now and then.
So to
In
that,
25 years, I've seen a lot of stuff come and go. And I've seen the gospel have staying power. And hopefully hopefully people will have an appreciation for the sustainability of the ministry, and what it takes to not just see the glory one time, but to sustain the glory over decades. Yeah.
So to your point, as someone who been pastoring 25 years, you've seen a lot. You've seen things come. You've seen stuff go. How do we end up on this campus without falling victim to trendy ministry? Like, how do we end up from the 400 seater to just 3,000 monstrosity while not falling victim to the reality preacher mode?
Well,
how do we get a glory week?
Well, just to just tell the story. It definitely was not a situation where every twist and turn in the road. There was a lot of unknown moments. There was a lot of times that we didn't think we were going to end up here. There were some times when we thought it was inevitable, and it was kind of taken away from us. And that's kind of the thing. I think it's important for people to appreciate what looks like it's inevitable 10 years later. Didn't look like that 10 years ago. Didn't look like that 12 years ago. We have 70 acres. So how'd you get 70 acres? Well, at one time we thought we were going to build here. At one time we thought we were going to build there. At one time we thought that was going to happen. And that didn't happen. And so you've got to be willing to look at opportunities and wonder if God is in it. I think purchasing property is a wonderful thing. I don't think you can. I don't think you can really make a mistake buying real estate. But when we bought the 38 acres on Sockwell Road 20 years ago, we thought we were going to build on it. When we bought 32 acres down here on Irish Drive in 2010, we thought we were going to build on
Mm-hmm.
it. And so you knew it had to be a God thing
Mm-hmm.
for us to not abandon what we were doing, but to pivot
Mm-hmm.
when God wanted us to.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank God for the membership of our church, and I want to thank God for the vision, because when we had to pivot, we were we were able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And purchasing this property was a pivot, even though the long-term goal was to have something like this.
Mm-hmm.
But we were, I still got the plans in my office on what we were going to build.
Mm. And
So if you're one of these pastors that says this gonna happen on this day, on this, at this time, and you don't give God room
mm-hmm.
to work things out that you don't see,
Mm-hmm.
I think some of us consider boldness to be, declaring something. But what if God wants you to have more than what you're declaring?
Right.
And this is more than what we would have ever built.
That's where
This
we're
is
going.
this
That's where
is
we're
this
going.
is a courtyard out here. I wouldn't have built me no courtyard on my own. The things that are here, I just would have never built for us, but
Mm-hmm.
God made it available to us, and it was a faith walk, and it was
Mm-hmm.
every pivot is you could lose your mind on every
Mm-hmm.
pivot.
So how is that being at the front of it? Like, I can only imagine to be leading a church and then say it's time to move. Where does that come from? Is it just an attendance thing, or is it a mix of things? Like, what is it? When did Dr. Eric Wenderly know? Hey, it's time. Was it something come to you, or was it? Did you see
Oh,
the building, or
well,
was it?
the
It's
the
time.
demand. No, you know, if we had 50 people in a 400 seat sanctuary, I could not make the argument that
Right,
we
right, right,
that it was
right,
time to move.
right.
Um, we were pressed for space. We were, logistically, it was impossible to stay where we were.
Okay,
Um, and we couldn't build fast enough.
okay, okay.
So when buildings became available, um, new construction, you could do in a matter of months what new construction would have taken you 3 years to
Mm-hmm,
do.
mm-hmm.
And that's how we ended up at 3001 Old Salem Road. And
Is
it
that the one
was
before
that
this
was the
one?
one before this one.
Okay,
And
I
and
seen that building. Yeah.
and we went there, and there's a Seventh-day Adventist church there now.
I'm hearing y'all was already too big for that space.
Well, in some ways we were,
Okay,
but it was the bless. When we got there, we tripled our space,
okay.
and we tripled our capacity. Yeah, we tripled our square footage, and we tripled our worship capacity. And I knew right away
Mm-hmm.
that was an interim spot.
Oh, okay, okay,
But
okay.
you know, there were some people who felt like we could have been there forever.
This
But
was
I
it.
was like, this is going to be an interim spot.
Mm.
So when we got that building, it took a $3 million loan and a $500,000 down
I was about
payment.
to say $500.
$500,000 payment to put down on the building, and a $3 million loan. I think we got it for 3.5 million. And dude, that made me nervous because it was a leap.
Mm-hmm.
The power bill, the water bill, the note,
Right. So
everything
what
was a
was the
leap.
leap? If you can remember some
Oh
of the numbers
God.
prior to that. So
Oh God. What
give
did
me
we?
some of the math.
Okay, we had, when I got to Springfield, I think our note
This is the
Our
first building.
debt,
The first.
our debt was under $300,000
Okay.
when
Wow.
I got to Springfield. Our debt was less; it was in the 200,000s.
Okay.
And
So do you remember how much?
5 years later,
Okay.
we get a $3 million loan. Right?
You 10x.
So,
You 10x.
so it's like, okay, yeah, you gotta, and I thank God for the pastors that I had in my life at that time, because that's a weight. People, you go from a tenth to 10 times what you had in debt, and you got this institutional church, and you got the legacy of that, a church that has never missed a mortgage payment, that has never bounced a check.
Wow.
And you about to take a leap into $3
Good church
million.
credit.
So yeah, we had so yeah, that was, you had to make sure that was a God thing. So $3 million in debt, and we you don't you, you, there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders.
So I was gonna ask. So how are you going back to that time? How are you preaching in those moments? How are you? What's the thought process? Are all of these things flowing every day? Do you have a moment of rest?
It's bigger than you.
Uh-huh.
And I've been praying for the church this week, and it's always, because the Bible says that pastors should never neglect the word and never neglect prayer. And I wish I could say over 25 years that I have been diligently faithful in that. But I'm praying for the church, man. And one of the things that that God and I have a conversation about is that, who do I look like educating you about your church? This is your church. These people are your people, and you're going to make provisions available for your church. And it's just for me to trust you. And it's about trusting God in the end. Do you trust God to be who God is? This is God's church, and God made a way for it before you got here, and God will make a way for it, long after you're gone.
But I can only imagine, just in your flesh, to see $3 million on a paper somewhere, or it's like three what?
And what was real crazy about it, at the closing of that church, that church walked away. They walked away. We gave them 3.5. They walked away with 3.2.
Wow.
I was like, wow. Now that's powerful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to have. Now they're walking away with money from, and it's like, I want to put the church in a position where it can be a financial, an institution that preaches financial independence and financial strength for its community. And that's one of the reasons why we're excited about what God has for us in the next decade, because I believe that in the next decade we're going to burn this mortgage, and we can be one of those churches that takes what it used to give to a bank and give it away to somebody who's trying to do something big for the kingdom. I want to be able to do that.
Gotcha.
I was talking to a financial guy. He said there's a church out here in North Georgia that was paying $40,000 for a mortgage, and then they paid their mortgage off, and now every month they give away $40,000.
I mean, it's just a pattern, but now they're just giving it to the people.
Yeah.
So okay, so fast forward.
Yeah, because $3 million, I would love to have a $3 million debt right now.
So now you see the $3 million.
Yeah.
So now you come here. What is it like seeing that? Is it what is it like seeing that now? I know we're probably brushing over a lot. We can go back and talk about it, but What is it now to see? Okay, 3 million, we accomplished that.
Man, my staff will tell you how frugal we are, and how frugal I am. They'll tell you how frugal I am. Shout out to Thomas Harris and Kendra Boone and Loretta Strong, members of our staff back then, Antoinette Bowie. And when we moved, it was a 3-mile move from 3001 Old Salem Road. But we went from 3 million to 12 million.
Yeah, I was waiting on you to drop. I was waiting on you to drop.
Actually, we put down, the purchase was going to be 12 million. And when we got to this campus, there's 3 functional buildings. There's, we had an electric bill on 3001 Old Salem Road. We had one electric meter. We got here, there's 4 electric meters. We had, 9 acres over here. We come over here, it's 43 acres. Oof. And, there's grass to be cut. There's, the sign had its own electric meter.
Its own bill.
Its own bill. And we had to come here, and I remember Kendra telling us that, the deposit, the electric, you had to put a deposit down, right? For snapping shows. The deposit was $16,000. And, to Kendra's credit,
never mind.
To Kendra's credit, Kendra knew a lot of the people on the board. They waived our snapping shows, waived our deposit.
Wow. The whole deposit, the whole 16K.
Yes. They allowed us to be here because of our history with them, and because of, a lot of it had to do with that Kendra Boone. She worked that out with Danny Stone. I remember Danny, and Matt was working for snapping shows at the time. And they waived that $16,000 deposit. That was a big deal.
I was about to say, what did that feel like to hear? Ooh, we ain't got to worry about the 16.
That was a big deal. And then when we got here, because I was so scared about what everything costs. The building had been vacant for a minute, and
so of course there's some servicing that has to be done. It's sitting.
And the staff they'll laugh and tell you, I had all of their offices over here at the ministry center because I didn't want to turn nothing on.
I heard about that.
Like, we're going to turn all this off 6 days a week. This building's going to be off except for Sunday. And we'll do everything else up here.
The church operations.
we got the building, and we're scared to move into it. Just trying to keep costs down.
How long did you operate like that?
Oh man, that didn't last through the summer.
Okay.
I don't think that lasted through the summer.
So everybody, you check in wherever you work, you was over there. The only time this building came on, Sunday service. Was you even over here, or you was out? Did you?
I think I had my office here.
Okay.
But yeah, that's funny. But we moved in. I think Thomas may have had his office here too. But we didn't want anything to have to be turned on here.
If at one point, correct me, did you have Bible study over there too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, had Bible study over there. Because we had to upgrade, there was a lot not here. We had to upgrade technology, soundboard,
lights. I know you had to do
lights,
some stuff
PA
like
system. We had to do a lot in a short time to open up on April the 8th, 2012, which was Resurrection Sunday.
Wow.
And man, that was a glorious day. That was an amazing day. And again, we still had, over $1 million that we needed to raise for the down payment.
Wow.
And You know, you've heard people talk about the bricks, and every time we gave $1,000 above the tithe, we moved the bricks from one side to the other. So we got like 1,400 bricks, and every $1,000 above the tithe, we moved one of those bricks to the other side, and then eventually, you know, people would be like seeing that brick mound, you know, be moved was a sight to behold. Yeah.
It's inspiration. I think that helps also sometimes. I mean, we're not going to pivot too much, but I think in preaching moments, like I'm the demonstration guy. Like I got to have a demonstration. But I think to that point,
illustration.
Illustration.
I like demonstration, but yeah, illustration is.
But you know, to that point, sometimes when people see it, it adds a different revelation to it, a different type of inspiration to it.
And we'll be doing that again with the Roots campaign. That's going to help us pay this place off and to finish this place. And that's another thing. We're excited. You know, we're excited to be here 10 years later. But this building is not finished. And I alluded to that on watch night. There's still 25,000 square feet in this building that we can finish, that we're going to finish and use for God's glory. And you know, that's the difference between the trending church and the church that is trying to remain consistent with the gospel. You know, we've been here 145 years, and we believe that we're going to put our church, the next generation of leadership in our church, we're going to put the church of tomorrow in a position to thrive and grow.
Yes, sir.
And not have to worry about a debt, and, you know. So we're investing in the infrastructure that we need to hand off a church, to hand over the church to the emerging generation.
So to that, this might be a question that puts you on the spot. Well, now you really don't get put on the spot. You're a great conversationalist. But there's a lot of pastors that I feel can't see past them. And not so much saying you see who your next is and all of that stuff, but do you visit the thoughts of what does Springfield look like after me?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And how do you how does that look to you? Not so much Springfield itself, but for you, is it daunting? Is it depressive? Are you happy to have those thoughts? Like what does that look like to you?
Well, I've been taught, and even though I've been here 25 years, I've been taught. I think I'm the ninth pastor.
Okay.
Sometimes I get my numbers confused, 8 and 9.
Yeah.
But I was taught in a very profound way. Always think of yourself as the interim pastor. Always think of yourself as having a successor one day. And no matter how stable you are in your pastorate, you need to be thinking about a succession. Man, we got a quarterback in the Atlanta Falcons who hadn't played one snap. You know, Kirk Cousins hadn't played one snap, and they already have his successor. And I initially I was like, man, what is that about?
They said the Eagles.
But when I thought about it in the context of ministry, it makes perfect sense that they know the successor, that there's continuity between what is and what now. Kirk Cousins is 96 years old in football years. So why don't we take the best of what he knows and prepare the next quarterback? They don't have to worry about a quarterback till 2030. And I'm, you know, I'm a big time Falcon fan, but
we know
none of us are going to be. All of us are on the clock. All of us are on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
You're on the clock.
No.
You know, we don't like to think of ourselves as being young, but Tiger Woods only has so many swings left in his body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I only got so many sermons left in my spirit. Only got so much. It's an infinite amount of time
Mm-hmm.
that we have. Excuse me, a finite amount of time.
Finite,
I
yes,
meant to
sir.
say a finite
Say
amount of
infinite.
time,
Hold on, you
a
teach me something
finite
new.
amount of resources left. And yeah, you want to. Not that I'm, I'm not one of them people that's going to try to pick the next pastor and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I know that our next pastor has already been born.
Mm.
I know that our next pastor may be applying to seminary right now. I
Mm-hmm.
know that our next pastor is somewhere,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and whoever he or she may be,
Mm-hmm.
we need to be preparing for a handoff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, shoot, the great majority of churches have pastors that are over the age of 40, 45. And I think in a healthy situation, succession needs to be something that is considered for institutional stability
Mm-hmm.
and continuity. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, even when we got to this building, it was like, hey, one day
Yeah.
there's gonna be somebody that is thankful for us for what we've done in our generation,
Right.
for the contribution we've made in our generation. I hope the next generation that through videos like this and through having Glory Week, that there's always an opportunity to appreciate that what we have now is because of people who were faithful in their time.
Mm-hmm. Last question, because I know we gotta
Oh,
get
God.
ready. Yeah, we gotta get ready. Do you want to talk about Roots a little bit?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to at least talk about what this campaign is going to mean to the future of Springfield?
The Roots campaign.
If you want.
There's so many things from um, a financial and a physical plant operational uh, standpoint that needs to happen. Aesthetically, there's some renovations and some infrastructure
LED walls
that we
everywhere.
want. LED everywhere. LED everywhere. Walking sidewalks, moving sidewalks, everything. We want to turn this into the Jetsons.
All right.
But yeah, we want to put some infrastructure in to what we already have. We want to update, what we already have. We want to finish what we've never finished. We want to replace what we're missing, what we're losing in this demolition back here. So we've got to build out outreach. We've got to build out upstairs. We've got to renovate what we have. That's children's ministry, teen ministry. We want livable, useful spaces.
Yes, sir.
Engaging fellowship spaces. For people to do growth. For the next century, and that's going to take an investment that goes beyond whatever the settlement is back here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're still going to have to put some money alongside whatever the settlement is back here.
Yes, sir.
To do everything that's needed to be done. We also have some vacant properties where we're in a position to really have an impact beyond this campus. And we're talking and envisioning what to do with that 38-acre tract, what to do with that 32-acre tract that's just vacant land right now. That's, every time you think land is peaked out, it continues to peak and soar. But we want to make sure that we're being good stewards of everything that we've accumulated,
yes, sir.
Not over the last 25 years, but over the last 145
yes,
years.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So y'all, This has been another edition. Is this season 2? Yeah, this
Is it
season 2.
We're in season 2. Wow.
Yeah, we did.
1,000 episodes.
I wish. I think what we did 5 episodes. We ended with Dr. Robinson, I think. Did we end with Dr. Robinson?
I don't know if we ended with
Nah,
him.
I
Yeah.
think- We did a few more. Listen, we continuing the conversation. This is the handoff featuring our pastor, Dr. Eric Wendell Lee. I'm the next gen pastor, Curtis Akeem. Don't forget, there's a myriad, I like that word, of ways to give. It's gonna pop up right up under here somewhere. But our number one portal is Realm. So we ask, give on Realm. Other places are cool, but use Realm if you will. Other than that, y'all, this has been another edition. Bless you all. Some great things that are coming up. We have graduation Sunday coming up also at the end of the month, to where we celebrate all of our high school and up graduates, military, technical school, graduates programs, high school, just any degree. We want to celebrate you.
And to the people who've been listening to me reflect on Glory Week, and then on May the 15th, we're going to have a one-night revival featuring Pastor Marlon Harris of the New Life Baptist Church, who's going to come and bless us. He was the first evangelist to preach a revival for me.
Oh, wow.
He was the first pastor I hosted here at Springfield.
At this location or just Springfield?
It's in my tenure as pastor.
Okay.
In August of 1999, last millennia, last 25 years ago, he was the first. He came for our homecoming revival in August of 1999. I'm grateful to have him back. He's a great preacher and expository preacher of the gospel.
Got you.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to tell him?
You tell him.
Oh, I'm preaching. For Sunday.
Our graduation Sunday is going to be Pastor Curtis Akeem McCullough declaring the gospel. So come out and celebrate with us Memorial Day weekend.
I'm bringing a living room. No, I'm playing.
We're going to have a grill on stage.
I don't know. We're going to see what God has to say.
It's going to be a demonstration. Whatever it is, it's going to be a demonstration.
We don't, whatever thus saith the Lord, as long as it gets cleared. Now let me stop. But one thing I want to leave you all with this is, I enjoy these conversations so much because I learn a lot. But for a lot of my counterparts, I really want you to understand that I like having these conversations because there's a lot that we all need to learn. And there's a lot that I want my generation of preachers to grasp. So I hope that through these conversations, you've heard something, you've received something, and it's helped you along your walk. Because not a lot of people get to sit under a wealth of knowledge like my pastor, but you get to borrow him from me every week.
And to those pastors, we know pastoral anxiety. And one thing about pastoral anxiety, pastors don't share it with anybody else.
Yes.
And so we keep you in our prayers, and whatever God has you going after, we pray that you do it in a healthy way.
Yes, sir.
Amen.
Yes,
Don't run up your credit cards. Don't lose your marriage. Over going after something God told you to go after, but He didn't tell you to go after it in a way that would kill you. So we want to certainly thank God for healthy patterns of leadership.
Yes, sir. And preach the gospel. Amen.
Amen.
Other than that, y'all, I'm Curtis Akeem.
Eric Wendell Lee, the graduate of a 2024 graduate at Florida State, and then Jam is graduating from Elon later this month. We got two graduates.
Got a lot coming out of college.
Two graduates in the same month. And I also want to say to the class of 2024 who didn't get a high school graduation because of COVID, y'all have a great time and enjoy the moment and be safe.
And come over. We'll celebrate you too.
Come to church.
All right, we out.
You can use me. I can't even thank you enough. You've been so good to me. Grabbing a bush